The next thing I know, he picks up this steak knife. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another story time video. Now, I was thinking in my head what's happened to me in the past that would be a great story to tell, and chatting to my partner, I think I found the one. So for this one, we're gonna have to go back quite a way. 10 years ago. In fact, no, 10 years ago? I'm shook. So this was back that many years ago. Disgusting. I was a waitress at a small country pub near where I live. I'd had the job for a good couple of years. I started when I was 13. I finished it when I was about 19, 20. I was in that job for quite a while. And for the most part, I actually really enjoyed it. It was just a quiet country pub. You know, we'd get bookings, you know, every so often for big tables, but not that often. It was just, you know, a nice little part-time job that kept me going alongside some of the other jobs I had over the years. But this one night, we had a group booked in. There were probably about 25 of them. Now, for our tiny country pub, this was a lot. It took up one of the entire sections, and it was a group of cyclists. They'd been out for like this really long cycle the whole day, and let me tell you, they were the table from hell. So this table comes in, and they, you know, they're seated. We expected them. It was all fine. It was me and one of my favorite chefs on. So I was like, okay, tonight's gonna be a really, really good night. Like, this is gonna be totally fine. If only I knew. So they're seated. Their orders start coming in, because this is one of the ones where this is a place where you have to order at the bar. You know, I wouldn't come out and take your order. It was very relaxed. And it's worth noting, because I was under a certain age, I don't know if the laws changed now, but because I was under a certain age, I couldn't serve alcohol because I was a minor. You know, I couldn't drink, so why should I be able to serve someone else? So I took out their starters, and one of them was like, hey, can you get me another beer? And I was, you know, I'm really, really sorry. I can't do that for you. You will have to go to the bar. And this guy immediately starts getting pretty iffy. You know, he starts mouthing off. He's like, well, you know, why can't you get me a drink? You're a waitress, that's your job. And I was like, not here, it's not. I was calm, professional, really nice the entire time, which I think is a testament, because they pulled some really, really bad stuff. You know, eventually my landlady walks over, because it was quite good. So the landlord and the landlady were a couple. They owned the pub, and they also worked behind the bar. It was basically like a family-run business. Let's call her Jemima, the landlady, and let's call the landlord Tim. So Tim comes around the corner and he's like, hey, you're gonna have to order at a bar. She's underage. And you know, when he turned up, there wasn't a problem after that. So I left, came back later to collect their starter plates, you know, check that everything was okay. Everything was fine. They took them in, and then they ordered their mains. Now, the mains mainly consisted of steak. So, you know, when you go out somewhere to order, if you order a steak, you get a fork, but you also get a steak knife. These things are, you know, they're quite sharp. You know, I take all the things out. I take all their, you know, their plates out and everything. Check everything's okay. Everything goes off without a hitch. I head back to the kitchen. And luckily, it was a pretty quiet night for the rest of it. And then I got word from the bar that they had finished their meals. So I went out to go and collect their plates. And this is where stuff starts to go wrong. You know, I head out. One of them, it was the guy who had asked me for the drink before, asks me again, can you get me a drink? And one of his mates is like, she's already told you she can't go get them. And he starts getting really mad. Like, he was proper like, you should get me a drink, blah, 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 blah. The next thing I know, he picks up this steak knife. Behind me was a wall, and then I had the bar, like right next to me on my left-hand side. This guy picks up the steak knife and hurls it at my head. Hurls it at a 16-year-old girl's head. Luckily, it hits the wall behind me and bounces off onto the bar next to me. And by this point, I am in shock. Like, I don't know what to do. So lucky for me, unlucky for them. You know, not lucky for me, I've just had a knife thrown at my face. But let me give you a bit more background on the landlord and the landlady. The landlord is this like 6 foot something guy, built like a house. And his wife, the landlady, was shorter than me. So she's about, I'm 5'1", so she's about 4'9", 5 foot, you know, pushing, you know, we were pretty much the same height, but I remember her being a little bit shorter than me. So I think she was about 5 foot. He was generally the sweetheart. She was the one, they were both lovely. They were probably some of the best bosses and managers I've ever had in my life. She was the one to watch out for, and unlucky for them, it was as this knife bounced off the wall behind me and hit the bar and landed on the bar side that she came round the corner. And oh my word, they were in for it. Poor little like 15, 16-year-old me is stood there like, oh my, like, this has never happened to me before. Like, I've had like complaints in the past before, because everyone has complaints at their job, but nothing like this has ever happened. And she just roars next to me like that they need to pay their bill and get out, essentially. And you know, she was like, you know, go back to the kitchen. So I went back round, and you had the chef, who was also a guy who took no crap. Like, he took absolutely none of it. So he was there like, I'll go out and speak to him, like, I'll do this. I was like, no, it's fine, because, you know, I'm 15, 16 years old. I don't want to make a fuss. And then the landlord comes in and he's like, you know, like, are you okay? It's okay. I've already forgotten what I called her. Jemima, whatever I called her. She's out there dealing with it. You know, it'll be okay. It turned out that half of the group left with Grumpy Angry Man. And a couple of them stayed because they had sort of been like well behaved and everything. They said, you know, we would like to stay if that's okay, you know, have our desserts, finish off, pay the bill, and then we'll go. And it was agreed at the end that that was fine. You know, they asked, are you still okay to wait this table? And I was basically like, as long as he's not there, I'm okay, because everyone else was really, really lovely to me. So I go back out, you know, after the coast is clear, I collect the plates back in. The other people are apologising profusely for this other guy. And I'm just sort of there, you know, like shaking hands like, it's fine. And I head back into the kitchen. Their desserts are prepared and I take their desserts back out. Everything's plain sailing, you know, they're still really apologetic. And then I go to collect the desserts in. And I'm about half, because you had to basically walk through the entire pub to get to this section. As I'm about halfway round, the other member of bar staff who's working just comes out and he's like white as a sheet. He's like, oh no, he's like, I'm gonna come and help you with this. And he like rushes around and I'm just looking at him like what's happened now? Like, there cannot be something else. But lo and behold, about 2 or 3 of the cyclists, because they'd been for a really long cycle all day and then had gorged themselves on like a 3-course meal, had just projectile vomited all over the tables, all over the rest of the chairs, and all over the floor. And it was that point where I was like, this is the table from hell. I've had bad tables in the past, but this tops it. And this did top it right up until I left a good like 6 years later. This table topped them all. I remember going home and just kind of like crying to my mum, like, I've had the worst night ever. Like, I think it turned out like we had like some latecomers in the evening. Like, the kitchen closed at like 9, 9:30. I can't exactly remember now. You know, the kitchen would close around then, you know, last orders would be around then. And when we'd had a really quiet night and then someone had ordered like right at the cut-off time, so we had to stay late. We were like halfway through cleaning and then we had to basically like open everything back up, you know, go again. So I remember I didn't get home until like 11:30, like midnight time. Like, I just remember going home, like, bless her, my mum had stayed up, like, to wait for me, because I was never normally this late home from work, and she was like, what happened? And I just remember just crying my eyes out to her, like, this has been the worst shift of my life. And it almost stands to continue to be the worst shift of my life. I've had some other bad shifts in some previous jobs, which I will tell you about if there's a call for it. I can do more story times. I have plenty of you know, retail and customer service story times to tell people. So if you're interested, let me know down in the comment section below. Like this video so I know that you enjoyed it, and I will endeavour to make more. Thank you very much for watching and reliving this tale of steak knives and vomit with me, and I will see you all next time. Bye!